It started like many interviews on Fox News do, with confidence, with control, and with a subtle undercurrent of condescension. Pete Hegseth, former military officer turned TV personality, sat across from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, ready to challenge her, interrupt her, talk over her, and then walk away feeling victorious. He had his notes, he had his script, he had his smirk. What he didn't have was any idea what was about to happen, because within 5 seconds of trying to corner Jasmine Crockett on live television, the entire tone of the interview changed fast. One miscalculated jab from Hegseth, one shallow factless question, and just like that, Crockett dismantled him calmly, surgically, and with absolute clarity. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't need to. She came armed with facts, focus, and something Hegseth hadn't counted on: the truth. It began with a question meant to trap her. Hegseth leaned in, trying to sound reasonable. "Congresswoman, how do you defend your party's so-called commitment to law and order when democratic cities are overrun with crime, failing schools, and chaos?" He waited for her to stumble, to default to slogans, to spin. Instead, Crockett blinked once, leaned forward, and fired back. Not with emotion, with information. She looked him in the eye and said, "First of all, Pete, if we're going to talk about democratic cities, then let's also talk about what those cities actually are: the economic engines of this country. Cities that feed the GDP, cities that support infrastructure you take for granted every day. And yes, cities that have problems, because they're where people live, unlike rural areas that receive more federal funding per capita while producing less economic output. Cities bear the weight of this nation and get blamed in the same breath." And just like that, Pete Hegseth had nothing. He opened his mouth, then paused, then smiled, pretending to listen, but his eyes said everything. He had not expected her to come with receipts, but Crockett wasn't finished. "You want to talk about crime, Pete," she said. "Let's talk about red states leading the nation in murder rates, teen pregnancy, maternal mortality, and poverty. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Kentucky. These are not democratic cities. These are Republican-controlled states where policy has failed working people for decades." The studio got quiet. The air shifted. But still Hegseth tried to recover. He threw another question, this time on immigration. He spoke fast, trying to regain control. "Do you honestly believe the border is secure right now? Millions are coming across." But Crockett cut through it, like a blade through butter. "Pete, stop," she said firmly. "You're not asking a question, you're repeating a talking point. Do you want to talk facts, or do you just want to hear yourself talk?" The silence afterward, deafening. That was the moment Hegseth went speechless, because Crockett wasn't playing politics. She wasn't playing at all. She was there to speak truth, and if that truth made someone uncomfortable, so be it. She continued, "Yes, the immigration system is broken, because for 30 years, neither party has had the courage to overhaul it. But let's be clear, people don't walk thousands of miles because they're looking for a handout. They come because US foreign policy, climate change, and decades of destabilization, much of it US-backed, have made survival impossible at home." She paused. "And you sit here, comfortably blaming the vulnerable, while ignoring the root." It was brutal, and it was beautiful. The comments rolled in by the second. On Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Reddit, clips, shared with captions like, "This is how it's done." Silence never sounded so loud. But the real message, it went beyond the clapback. Jasmine Crockett didn't just silence Pete Hegseth. She exposed the whole playbook, because this wasn't about one anchor or one interview. This was about a system built on deflection, performance, and privilege that assumes black women won't push back, that assumes truth can be talked over, that assumes confidence is reserved for the loudest voice in the room. But Crockett flipped that. She showed what it means to walk into an adversarial space with your shoulders back and your facts loaded, not to argue but to educate. She didn't go on that show to shout. She went to remind America of a few uncomfortable realities: that cities aren't failing, they're underfunded, that crime doesn't come from ideology, it comes from inequality, that leadership isn't a soundbite, it's a track record, and that intelligence can't be faked, even if confidence can. In just 5 seconds, she changed the energy. In 5 more, she turned the whole interview into a masterclass, and in 5 minutes, she walked away with the respect of millions and the silence of a man who had nothing left to say. But what matters most is this: Crockett didn't do it with anger, she did it with elegance. She didn't insult back, she didn't mock, she didn't lose control. She did what powerful women, especially black women, have been doing for generations: turning doubt into clarity, turning ignorance into instruction, and turning a moment into a movement. By the time the segment ended, Hegseth mumbled through his final questions, looking at the clock, hoping it would end. Crockett smiled, because she knew this wasn't just about one win, it was about setting a new tone, a new expectation, a new way forward, where facts fight harder than fear, where preparation outlasts provocation, where brilliance isn't dimmed, no matter how loud the studio gets. And now, there's no turning back. Jasmine Crockett didn't just answer a question that day, she answered a generation's worth of gaslighting, dismissiveness, and political games with one steady voice and a fireproof command of truth. So the next time a TV host thinks he can outtalk, outsmart, or outmaneuver her, he might want to remember what happened in those first 5 seconds, because Jasmine Crockett doesn't need to yell, she speaks, and when she does, even the loudest critics fall silent. Closing music fades in, calm, determined piano chords. Voiceover soft, facts don't flinch, and the truth, it never needs to shout.